Chinese general says prepare for combat. Top Chinese general in unusual move tells troops to be ready for combat with Japan. You notice this is all over the world. Everything's heating up. You've got embassies being attacked worldwide. You've got unrest in Europe itself. You've got news that Georgia's preparing to attack South Ossetia and Abkhazia, Russian-controlled demilitarized zones. The whole world's going haywire, and Gerald Celente of trendsjournal.com, best-selling author, researcher, needs no introduction here. He's been saying get ready for this, and that's why I'm so concerned. We've heard rumors of Iran strikes before. Now 25, well, now it's 30. 5 more navies got involved. Our mine-sweeping on the Strait of Hormuz is a show of force, I guess ahead of an attack. You've got all this other craziness going on. Economically, Al-Qaeda going crazy, funded by NATO, overthrowing countries. The whole world's going wild right now. Why is that happening, and what do you see coming next? Gerald Celente.
Hi, Alex. You know, you really summed up everything quite concisely, particularly talking about what Homeland Security is doing. This should be headline news. What are they doing? I mean, are that many Al-Qaedas out there that are going to be trying to slip through airport security, that they have to gun them down? The entire global system, as you just wrapped it up, is in free fall. And as you pointed out, what's going on in France with this 2-bit magazine printing this information, these cartoons about Muhammad, it is as if they are doing it to continue to inflame an already inflamed situation so that they can then say, this is a state of emergency. The nation's at war. The President of the United States has declared a national emergency. The banks are closed. Wall Street is closed down. It is as if they are doing this purposely. Because having this go on now after what just happened in Libya, you can only question what their motives are, because these are not sane people making this statement. And don't give me the line about little girls and boys, freedom of speech. Hey, did you see that freedom of speech over there on Occupy Wall Street? Oh, did you see that freedom of speech over there at the Democratic and Republican conventions? So this isn't about freedom of speech. This, to me, is intended to continue to inflame the hatred going on throughout the Middle East, and as it blows up and explodes, Homeland Security is armed and locked and ready to blow your brains out if you start protesting martial law.
Well, Gerald, you just said it, and you point out that, well, let's look at what happened at the DNC. They were arresting peaceful protesters to set the precedent who had driven there with no criminal records and would throw them in jail, and the Department of Defense, who's now in charge, totally illegal, went to, and the ACLU reported on this, it's not just me, went to the judge and said, keep these people in jail. They were planning to protest, and that's terrorism. They called it low-level terrorism. So the military's now arresting people and saying, keep them in jail because protesting is illegal. We say it's terrorism when it's not illegal. Same thing at the RNC. Everywhere we're seeing free speech shut down. And then, yeah, there's free speech to be able to do this about Muhammad, but the media is hyping it and giving it attention. I've got stories on the biggest website in the world, drudgereport.com, that can't even get it to break in the news. Instead, the media comes out and says, Alex says, and Drudge say there's 174,000 bullets. What's the big deal? When it's now 1.6 billion. So they did respond, but only to cover it up. So exactly, they are hyping this. And now it turns out in Egypt, groups are funding radical young kids to go out and do this. It's financed so they can point at the Arabs and say, let's invade. It's just incredible, Gerald.
Yeah, it is. Here, this is from Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. France to close embassies in 20 countries in wake of Prophet Muhammad cartoons. French government said Wednesday that it planned to shutting down premises, including embassies and schools in 20 countries on Friday after a magazine ridiculed the Prophet Muhammad by portraying him in naked cartoons. Riot police were deployed to protect the Paris offices of the satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo. I mean, come on. Who the hell is Charlie Hebdo? What makes this such a great freedom of speech movement? This is a lot of BS.
Well, notice South Park won't make fun of Muhammad, any of this. Well, now they're going to use the UN as a way globally to shut down our free speech using this. They're actually calling for a global ban on people's speech. I mean, this is incredible, Gerald.
It is. And again, let's keep playing it back and seeing what happened in the last week or so, because tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. So let's look at how we got here. Look what the news is this week. The United States declared that they're no longer going to train those Afghan soldiers that are blowing the brains out of American soldiers who are training them. This is after they came out with this whole big bunch of malarkey that they were going to have guardian angel soldiers watching over them. The whole system is failing. Look what happened last week over in Libya. And I have to tell you, this is really upsetting to me for a number of reasons. Number one, they're calling the people that did it extremists and militants. I don't know who killed the ambassador who waged the attack on the U.S. embassy in Benghazi. But by any stretch of anyone's imagination, could the people that did it been loyalists of Gaddafi that don't want the government that's ruling there now and that are attacking Americans for having overthrown their government? Let us suppose that the BRIC nations decided, Brazil, Russia, India, China, decided they were going to launch an invasion against the United States of America for the tyrants that are ruling this country over here. The tyrants that have taken away the people's constitutional rights. The tyrants that have taken the people's money to enrich the rich. The tyrants that lied their people to war and had their men and women killed for fake reasons, for a situation that was totally manufactured and people said it was as it was happening. Suppose that happened and the BRIC nations invaded the United States and there were people here that didn't like that. Would they be militants? Would they be extremists trying to throw out the occupiers or the new governments that they imposed? The United States is a country that's running out of control. And I'm also offended deeply by this show of the President and the Secretary of State showing up to honor the ambassador of Libya's death when they never show up when our soldiers are killed.
For more than 6 years, I've talked on the air about creating a social network. PlanetInfowars.com is in its beta phase. We're just launching it. And I want to invite all of you out there to be in on the ground level. Planet Infowars is about people coming together, forming activist organizations, getting involved politically, hunting and fishing, gardening, dating. This is a place for people who love freedom to meet and to talk and to write and to post information. And I give you this pledge. We are not going to spy on you and sell your data to the New World Order. PlanetInfowars.com is free, so people who love freedom can get together, connect with people who are awake and know what we're facing. Be active, organize, take action, go viral, create, contribute, resist, because resistance is victory. You are victory. It's waiting for you to breathe power into it. PlanetInfowars.com. And the banks that run our country are willing to use it to do anything to take over while oppressing us domestically. They're just throwing the whole Bill of Rights and Constitution out the window, engaging in every crime you can imagine. Federal judges said you can secretly disappear Americans forever. So at that point, we have a government saying we're lawless, we're evil. You got Corzine, who was able to steal $1.6 billion, got caught lying, the former head of Goldman Sachs, and didn't get in trouble. He was told some of Gerald Celente's money that was in his own private account. They're now announcing banks can deal narcotics. They're announcing the U.S. troops grow the opium. Because we have a zombie population living in a trance, the criminal elite have gotten away with things that are just staggering. People ask why we're still alive. A lot of experts think the controllers don't even care. They think the public's so zombie. Well, they're giving you GMO. They know it's killing the rats. I mean, we're living in the Matrix. Gerald, I'm ranting here. You got cut off by the break, making the eloquent point about, you know, like Bush banned coffin photos. Now they don't even talk about the dead troops. That's all forgotten. The troops getting blown up every day in Afghanistan, that's forgotten. Al-Qaeda publicly working for NATO, that's forgotten. I mean, we've really reached something that if I read an absurdist science fiction novel 20 years ago, Kurt Vonnegut wrote stuff like what's happening. But it's beyond Kurt Vonnegut dark satire. I mean, it's reached total insanity level.
Yeah, and it's beyond Orwell. Well, I mean, Orwell could have never invented this. I mean, Big Brother, was never this big. And as I was mentioning about Libya, how terrible it was that this ambassador got killed. But our troops, they don't even call dead Americans anymore. As you pointed out, you're not allowed to show photos of the coffins of American troops under Bush. I don't know if that's been changed since. But the other offensive fact of the matter is that they don't even call them dead Americans anymore. You know who they are? They're NATO troops. They're NATO troops. That's right. Pick up the toilet paper of record, the New York Times. Pick up any one of them. They're dead NATO troops. They're not U.S. troops. And you know what? They're right. They're not U.S. troops. They are NATO troops. It's a takeover. The world banking system has taken over the United States. It's happened over there in Europe. You know the deal. Mario Draghi, the former vice chairman of the Goldman Sachs gang, now the head of the European Central Bank, has announced that they're going to buy up all that worthless sovereign debt of Italy and Spain and Portugal and the other bankrupt countries. They also announced that they're taking out all the power from the sovereign banks, as I've mentioned before, and concentrating it in Brussels. Same thing over here. And again, it's failure on top of failure. And I keep trying to figure out why this keeps happening and why no one does anything about it. And this is the latest analysis that I could come up with. You know how I keep saying that the same people in high school and college that you hated are now our class president, that were class presidents and head of the student council, have followed their career path and are now telling us what to do? Well, when you look back, and by the way, it's the same thing with these generals. They were the Boy Scouts, then they were the Eagle Scouts, and then they went to ROTC, and then they went to West Point or Annapolis. They never grew up. Most of them were born on Easy Street. They had their path paved for them. They never had, like a kid, when you're a kid in high school, you do crazy things and you never think about the consequences. These people are still in high school. They haven't grown up. They've only gotten older. And they don't look at their consequences. Because if anybody looked at the consequences of what these high school and ROTC jerks have brought us to, they would never tolerate it. That's all this is. It's high school USA, and people don't want to call it what it is.
Bravo to that. Absolute veritas. And Gerald, the reason I say you're so right is studying these people and other past elites, drinking their own Kool-Aid, smoking their own dope. We've now reached the point, we're going to break, long segment coming up, to get into the economy itself and the technicals and your solutions. But every bad thing they do, they control the media, so they've learned they can just spin it as if it's not their fault and they're going to save us. And so the sky's the limit, but we're dealing in a world with nuclear and bioweapons. And you really study these guys, they are a bunch of crazy people who are in control, but deep down are mentally ill. And so they probably will destroy everything if they're not stopped. And that's the point we've reached. Sick of the globalists, eugenicists, control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure. But if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. You know, being a history buff, because I just happened to stumble into it as a really 9, 10 years old, I liked history shows on PBS. I liked reading the history books that were laying around the house, the history books that had photos in them. One of the reasons I wanted to become a good reader was because it all looked so interesting. All those Time Life, World War II, World War I, Time Life, the Westerns, you know, the West. I just voraciously ate it up. And one big theme in history is every different generation faces a different crisis. And we're getting ready to face a really big one, even bigger than the World War II generation. And people always look back and say, how did they not know what Hitler would do? Or how did they not know what Lenin and Stalin would do? Well, people tend to get comfortable. They don't want to be leaders. They don't want to get involved. And they just want to think everything's going to work out okay. And a lot of times prosperity also makes people very, very lackadaisical. They wear it like it's a protective cloak, when really it brings the wolves. And now, through a historical lens, but also what's happening currently, if the general public could consciously know what I know or what Gerald knows, which isn't anything special, it's just history, in a current context, you would be absolutely freaking out. You know, it's like my children sometimes. They'll be scared to go down the hallway and get themselves a glass of water. Sometimes they come in at like midnight. Hey, Dad, I want a glass of water, but I don't want to go in the kitchen. They're like, get up and get it for me. You know, the 5, the 6-year-old, you know, and I'm like, wow, but they're not scared at a shopping mall or in a parking lot where they could be run over. They're not scared when we're driving down the highway 70 miles an hour on a 1-lane with cars 6 inches from us, that if we had a head-on collision, it'd be a 140-mile-an-hour collision. You know, 70 plus, I mean, dead. Everybody's dead. They're just singing, laughing. They have no idea, and that's the analogy. The general public's in the car. They have no idea we're now going about 400 miles an hour. There's cars all around us in the lane we're in, and there's cars in the other lane. The nuclear weapons are placed. The countries are lining up. The currencies are melting down. The government's arming to the teeth against us. The government's far and run. And the general public is scared of the dark. They're scared of made-up Al-Qaeda that's globalist run. They're scared of things that don't really exist. They think TSA sticking their hands down their pants will keep them safe. Meanwhile, we're all in grave danger. And I'm ranting here, Gerald, but what do you take from my analogy? Can you expand on it? I know you've got a lot on your plate that you're looking at right now. What else would you like to break down for the audience?
As you went into break, you were talking about the media, the prostitutes. And I was talking about how this is high school USA. The media, the same kids that, you know, in high school and college that, you know, ran the school newspaper. And they sucked up to the principal. Now they suck up to the president, the congressmen, the senators, and whoever else. Read the story in the toilet paper of record a couple of months ago about how every phrase, every statement, every quote made by either the Obama administration or the Romney challenger has to be cleared first before the prostitutes print it. I'm not making that up. It's theirs. You could go Google it up.
Total lapdogs. I mean, our press has never been perfect, but in the old days, they were there aggressive. It would be a huge story if anything was pre-approved. Now it's all pre-approved, and that supposedly is the new normal.
Exactly. You know why? Because it's fascism. The merger of state and corporate powers. It's a takeover. I said this years ago. people call Obama a fascist, a communist, a Marxist. No, let's get this straight. All our dough went into the banks. They're doing it again with QE3. And the analogy, again, when staying on the high school thing. In high school, you know, these people had their own little clique. They still have it. They just moved it up. And they were the people that didn't bother with them, didn't like them, and didn't hang out with them. And now they're telling you what to do. And the people are now doing what they're telling them to do. They're telling that these high school class presidents, they're telling you what's best for you. And the people believe them. These high school class presidents, people now bow to them. They're their political gods. So where is it all going? The same thing, you take it into the economy. Look at the guy who's playing the role of the economics minister of the United States, Ben Bernanke, the head of federal, as I call him, public enemy number one, Osama bin Bernanke, the head of the Federal Reserve. They're coming out with QE3. I'm going to read you a quote, Alex. This is from the Trends Journal. This is the one from, let me see here, the summer of 2011. Fed's massive stimulus had little impact. Alan Greenspan. The Federal Reserve's massive stimulus program had little impact on the U.S. economy besides weakening the dollar and somewhat helping U.S. exports. Fed Reserve Governor Alan Greenspan told CNBC. This isn't a left-wing, group. This isn't a radical. This is Greenspan, who helped destroy the economy by lowering interest rates to 46-year lows following 9/11 to bail out the losers on Wall Street that made bad bets following the dot-com crash. In a blunt critique of his successor, Federal Chairman Ben Bernanke, Greenspan said the $2 trillion in quantitative easing over the past 2 years had done little to loosen credit and boost the economy. Of course, it's not $2 trillion. As we found out later, it was more like $23 trillion of Fed money that was pumped in around the world. Not making that number up. It's a fact. Quote. Greenspan said, quote, he would be surprised if there was a QE3. Well, of course he would be surprised. Greenspan would be surprised if he could put one foot in front of another and talk and chew gum at the same time.
Oh, man.
So, of course, he's wrong again. It would, quote, continue erosion of the dollar. Exactly.
Well, that's like Geithner.
They are driving us into poverty.
Well, that's like Geithner saying a year and a half ago in China, we will not devalue the dollar and we will not lose our AAA rating. It's now down to A-, Gerald.
And going lower because they're not going to get off this physical cliff because they're a bunch of losers. They're the same jerks in high school and college that you couldn't stand.
Yeah, well,
telling you what to do.
They couldn't even hold Baghdad. How do they think their 1.6 billion bullets are going to be pumped into our skulls, and they haven't got their robots going yet? Who's going to serve them and produce for them if they pump all those bullets into us?
Alex, they're wrong on everything. There's nothing that they've been right on. They were wrong about Afghanistan. They were wrong about Iraq. They're wrong about the economy. They're wrong on education. They're wrong on health care. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. They're the same people you hated in high school and college that are now telling us what's best for us. And they're the elites.
They're the fifth generations of old elites that were at least smart enough to take over and had some smarts, but were still criminal. These are now foppish, sycophantic yes men dancing around on the Titanic that they drove into the iceberg so they could loot it, not understanding they don't have lifeboats. And they're just going to clutch their nuclear weapons and their troops in black masks they think will scare everyone into worshiping them. And maybe that will happen.
It may, but again, this is from the summer 2011. Greenspan saying there won't be a QE3. Of course, he was wrong. And he said, if there was, it won't work. This is on CNBC.
I know.
Everybody knows it's not going to work. You know who it's working for? It's working for the too big to fails. It's working for the hedge funds that have taken over the government.
But wait a minute. I always said they were going to do it, and so did you, and so did Porter Stansberry and many others. They were just lying, saying, don't worry, it won't be QE3. It'll be QE Unlimited. It's like, you know, we're not just going to chop one of your fingers off. We're going to chop your arms, your legs off, and slit your throat. So we promise not to cut your finger off. We're just going to put you in a wood chipper.
And here's the fallout. This is what you're seeing coming out in the news on Bloomberg today. Gold may gain in New York after reaching 6 months high on speculation. Now, this is important. Central banks' move to bolster growth will spur demand for the metal as a protection of wealth. The Bank of Japan said it will add 10 trillion yen to the yen-funded that buys assets, including government debt. The Federal Reserve announced on September 13th a third round of quantitative easing. European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, the Goldman Sachs flack, gave details this month to plan to buy worthless debt from member states. And China has approved massive infrastructure spending plans. You get it? The whole thing is collapsing. They're dumping more and more dough into this to try to keep it afloat. They're not going to be able to. So let's go back and replay the timeline. I've repeated this over and over again, and you can see it happening now. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. The panic of 08, the Great Recession/Depression. Oh, Great Recession, by the way, a new study came out today. Yeah, that's right. The American people have seen their wealth decline. Oh, a couple hundred. Oh, it's down from 39% of loss of wealth to 31% loss since the Great Recession began. 8.6% in median household income lost since the Great Recession.
And that's with Cook numbers.
And yeah, it's much worse than that. But then we take on, now we're going to keep playing it. So we had the Great Recession. Now we're having the currency wars. Have you heard Mittens, Romney, and Obama bashing China now? Now they're all talking tough on China. Gotta bring down the and as you mentioned, Geithner, we got to bring down the level of that yuan. It's making it unprofitable for American corporations to export their product. And now the trade wars. Did you see Obama in Ohio? Sleeves rolled up. Man, the cat is never working. He's always out on the campaign trail. Or, of course, playing basketball, shooting pool, or maybe playing golf or walking the dog. Anyway, he said, we got to stop them Chinese. They're doing unfair trade. The trade wars are heating up. And now the hot war is heating up because you saw what the United States and NATO are doing to keep building positions in the South Pacific. So now what's happening? Oh, now China and Japan are going at it. What a surprise. Would have never known, particularly since Hillary and Panetta are all going over there and bolstering our alliance.
No, they've told the Japanese to take those islands as a provocation. As U.S. forces mass, it looks like they're gearing up for a possible World War III. You got it. And that's what I've been saying. The first great war of the 21st century has begun. What are they waiting for? And then if we criticize our great leaders when the war's going and maybe nukes are going off, they'll just send the army over to arrest Celente and Jones. And guess what? The army manual's public. They're planning just that. And we don't have any jury. We don't even have any charges. No trial. No writ of habeas corpus. No lawyer, no nothing. And you know why? Because the psychopaths are in charge. That's right. And everyone is listening to them. It is a disgrace what has happened to this country. It is a disgrace that people don't stand up and take action and start denouncing these people for robbing us of our constitutional rights. I get a kick out of these guys who are always talking about our founding fathers and what a great country this is as they keep raping us of
every last bit of rights that we have. They're bankrupting us. They're robbing everybody's savings by keeping these interest rates at historic lows and now announcing that they're going to go through to beyond 2015. There's no savings anymore in this country, and they're forcing you to play their game in the stock markets or equity markets.
Well, let me go to another level. They have something called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report that the mafia set up in Chicago in the 30s and 40s. The Chicago 1313 model was adopted by the 50s by the Pentagon. Now all governments, water districts, school districts, they have the budget they tell you about. Then they have this whole other budget that's usually about 70+% of the money that they invest in derivatives and things. Most of that's now been stolen by the banks. But toll roads. We pay for these roads. I've looked at the documents just where I live. They never build them. Then they give the money to a private company to build a new toll road. And now they're just striping existing roads like Mopac here in Austin to turn it into a toll road, even though that's illegal. And we've learned that it's offshore banks running the toll roads that are now running the elections and have taken over almost all the towns in Texas where I live. It's the same nationwide. And when you go, it's like a military operation now where they've all got handbooks to manipulate people. That's all public. Guys, when you turn your camera off, flash CIA badges and get in our face. I mean, let me tell you, Gerald, it's bad, man. It's like body snatchers. They got operatives everywhere. This takeover is... When you said foreign banking takeover, it's long term. These people have got their act together. You're saying that they're always wrong up top. Well, yeah, because they're lying to us. This is a huge mechanized takeover.
Oh, it is. As I said, it's fascism. Call a spade. That's what's happened here. You just described it. That's the only word for it. America's a country in name only. It's nothing what this country used to be, and it breaks my heart to see what's happening.
But I'm telling you, our investigation, it was worse than I even thought. Their operatives are everywhere. And they're almost all Rockefeller Foundation. I mean, it's way worse than I even knew. I mean, it's unbelievable, bud.
I know. And it keeps getting worse. Again, let's look what's going on. They're beating the war drums over there between China and Japan. They're talking again, they're always talking about more ships going into the Persian Gulf. We saw what happened with this, with the death of this Libyan ambassador, as they claim, and we're seeing it ratcheting up. We're seeing the riots going on. They're not reporting this, Alex. There are massive demonstrations going on in Spain and in Portugal, tens of millions of people in dozens of different cities taken to the streets. It's breaking down worldwide.
Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about a year and a half ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals. But the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. I'm coming to you from former Texas, occupied. Their operatives are everywhere. They're hitting the food supply, the water supply. We got the GMO reports giving everybody cancer by design. We're just here trying to warn people, hoping there's still some humanity out there who's not in a trance or brain damaged who we can try to get through to. Police, military, please do the right thing. Please warn people. Please have a little courage to speak out. The plan is so evil and so huge, I understand it's hard to know where to deal with it, but I've done just the best I can. Gerald's done the best he can. Just do the right thing, and God will take you the rest of the way. Gerald, you've got the floor in the final 5 minutes here with where you think all this is going and any solutions to what we face.
Well, on the solutions then, why aren't people doing more? I mentioned, this about being high school and the same people you couldn't stand And the people, they haven't grown up either in a lot of ways. They're still programmed to follow orders, whether they get it from their parents when they're little kids, then they're told what to do when they go to school, and then they go into the corporate field and they're told what to do. And then they have this, you know, the whole magic show of the red carpets and the roped off president and the authorities. So they're still obeying authority. And they haven't broken. I mean, I hear people my age still, you know, bitching and moaning about their parents, you know. They didn't have the perfect parents. They haven't grown up yet. And the people better start doing it. Because until they do, nothing is going to change. It's up to the people to bring this change. And where is it all going economically? Again, how could anybody believe wrong again Ben Bernanke? I read you the quote from Greenspan saying it wouldn't work. I want to show you how wrong he is. He was, is, and continue to will be. Because, again, it's just another guy that's been born on Easy Street, and he went to Princeton, and now he's still on Easy Street. They're never they're never on the bread line or the front lines. All they do is tell you what to do. And here's from Professor Ben, the guy that never worked a day in his life and has been telling people what to do for most of his life. From the Trends Journal, autumn 2010. Ben Bernanke on CNBC, July 29th, 2005. Tell me, what is the worst case scenario if we in fact see real estate prices actually come down substantially across the country? Here goes wrong again, Ben, you jerk. You didn't know then and you don't know now's answer. Well, I guess I don't buy your premise. It's a pretty unlikely possibility. We have never had a decline in house prices on a nationwide basis. Any guy that says something like that and is still running the show, you'd say, who's keeping this moron in?
Prices have gone down many times nationwide over history. He's completely full of baloney.
I know. Let me keep going on here because it gets better. This is on February 28th, 2007. Things are really starting to go downhill. Quote, there's not much indication at this point that subprime mortgage issues have spread into the broader mortgage market, which still seems to be healthy. Yeah, still seems to be healthy to a jerk that doesn't know anything, doesn't know his history, but still there and doing more damage. And these are the people that the prostitutes bow to, that they suck up to, because the prostitutes are the same people that ran the school newspapers.
Gerald, I want to put bookends on this. I know you got to go, but 1 minute break. Come back for one more segment. I want to get more of your solutions and find out where you think all this is going. Stay with us, folks. PrisonPlanet.tv. All right, Gerald Celente is our guest for 5 more minutes. I tell you, he just is right on target. I love listening to Gerald. He's my mom's favorite guest on the show. Bob Chapman and he were both her favorite kind of together. She couldn't decide, but now Bob's dead. God love him. The international forecaster. But getting back to Gerald Celente. Gerald, I mean, it's got to give somewhere. You'd think there's people in the power structure who aren't completely insane and really want stability. I mean, don't they know how it goes for people when they try to take over the whole world every time? I mean, these delusions of grandeur are going to have us all glowing in the dark, basically. Any ways to stop these people? I mean, I do see people either getting deeper into being dumbed down, or I see an accelerated awakening happening. So the wheat from the chaff is being divided here.
There is an accelerated awakening. We see it every day. We get emails come flooding in all the time, thanking us for waking them up and for me being on your show and for what you're doing as well. A lot of people are waking up. And that's the words that they use. They're waking up. Yeah, I believe it can change, unless you think the guys in high school and college were better than you are, and unless they think, I want to make this really clear, their mother is not better than mine. I want to make that clear. And anybody out there that thinks that their mother is better than yours, then that's what you're facing. But if you have the self-respect to where you came from and who you are, we could change this on a dime. It doesn't have to go like this.
No, you're right. We've got to find our self-respect and quit putting up with people that don't respect us.
You got it. Respect yourself. demand respect from others, and show it to everyone who deserves it, regardless of class or structure or where they come from, position, and to have dignity and to have courage, not to cower to power. Those are the things, and passion and integrity, to live by your word and do what your heart feels, what your mind knows. Then it'll change. Are there people in power that are going to make the difference? Let me quote Eisenhower. He said that anyone that seeks the position is either an egomaniac or crazy. How long has Romney been seeking the position? Look at Obama. The cat's never on the job, man. He's out there playing. He was on Letterman. Isn't that wonderful? Can you imagine Eisenhower sitting down with a little jerk like Letterman or Leno or Stewart or Colbert? What a disgrace. What a disgrace. No. There's no one up there that has the dignity, the courage, the respect or integrity to lead this country, not when they behave like a bunch of cafones.
Gerald Celente, TrendsJournal.com. I'm Alex Jones, Infowars.com. Take us out. We got a minute and a half, Gerald. You take us out.
All right. Gold. You know I said it all along. When gold broke over $16.70 an ounce, I said if it stays over there, the next number to look at is $17.70 an ounce. It's been staying above that. My forecast is that if gold stays above $17.70 an ounce, it's off to the races. And when you saw Soros jump back in and others into the gold market, and you see this cheap money they're dumping in, gold and silver to me, not telling anybody what to do, that's my forecast. The big other one, and this is the one that we all have to stop from happening, is that I am very concerned that the headlines on Election Day, just leading up to it, are not going to be about jobs and the economy, but about war. Because if they take us to war, all the morons will pull out those yellow ribbons and stick flags on their car and cheer as they take us to another war. Because I believe there's going to be either a real or a false flag attack the way things are going.
Well said. There's Gerald Celente taking us out. He'll be back with us again tomorrow to kick off the show. Gerald, thank you for all your time. And say hi to your crew and everybody else. They're doing a great job. And great job to our crew as well. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.